the question is, if you look at what are the red flags rising, I mean, it's a perfect storm of events. And in this perfect storm of events, situations related to, kickback schemes, embezzlement, collusion with clients and customers, outright fraud. These are all going to be much, much more elevated in these kind of economic conditions that we're seeing in China now. It's not different than other markets in the world in terms of what it's facing, but if you look at the size of the economy, where the economy is, the growth of the Chinese economy has been the slowest in 30 years, right? So, I have first moved to China in 1992. Okay, so essentially, 30 some odd years, close to 30 some odd years in China. It's the worst. It's in terms of economic performance, it's the worst I've ever seen. And so, fraudulent activities, just like in other markets all over the world, have been going on. The question is, okay, why is it now going to be different? Why is it now heightened? Well, if you look at, liquidity is an issue, right? You're looking at, hey, maybe your foreign investor is looking to pull out or repatriate or moving to a different market. You have issues with the economic slowdown. Competition in China is fierce, right? And so what happens is all these kind of elements are saying, okay, what is going to make us to be able to survive or to prosper? And in some cases, the partner may say, hey, if these guys are shutting down, they're not doing very well. Instances like that, make fraudulent activity much more elevated. So what happens is it's the situations now you have to respond to, knowing that you have an ongoing debt crisis, knowing you have a slowing economy, knowing that potentially you have supply chain realignment and decoupling. You're having a market that maybe is increasingly competitive, right? And so those are kind of all the perfect elements. And so what happens is you have to make sure that the firm take attention is what kind of internal controls do you have in place to be able to mitigate any of those risks? What kind of governance framework do you have overseeing bribery and corruption? What kind of due diligence have you done with your suppliers, and your vendors and your customers, looking at your customer mix? And even more importantly, it's also going to be what kind of mechanisms you have in place to be able to report some illegal, illicit activity. Having a very strong and robust whistleblower mechanism is also critical. One other thing that I think is one of the critical success factors is going to be what kind of leadership and tone at the top you have. And so without the proper tone at the top, everything else kind of falls by the wayside. I think that's going to be some of the critical elements that firms really want to look at and review in terms of their exposure to bribery, fraud, and corruption.